Lies 1 to 3. The Price Lie Trilogy. Lie 1 starts where the dopamine lands. It's cheap because it's efficient. The story sounds airtight, automated cutting, global freight at scale, software that forecasts to the unit. But the ledger you see isn't the ledger that matters. Costs didn't vanish, they slid sideways. Wastewater treatment skipped to make a truck. Overtime unpaid because the order turned urgent. Packaging, returns, and disposal absorbed by cities that never saw the ad. Medical bills absorbed by families downriver from dye houses. Efficiency for whom? The brand's spreadsheet shows a win. The neighborhood shows the rash. Stakes show up on a Friday night call. A manager in Turapur hears double the run, ship Tuesday. He flips the line to nights and switches from hourly pay to per piece. The dye house next door runs vats hot and bypasses treatment because the tank's full and the hauler's late. Downstream, women draw water and feel the sting on their hands. On a dashboard, a buyer logs cost saved. The river logs color. Action scales because the model demands it. Just-in-time tightens buffers, so every hiccup turns into human speed. When a zipper spec gets downgraded to make the timeline, nobody writes we shifted risk to the customer's third wash. When a plant delays needle changes to keep uptime, nobody inputs we traded safety for minutes. Those trades stack into the price you cheer at checkout. Impact is quiet and broad. Municipalities handle returns waste that's priced too low to process. Ports handle bales of resale that flood markets overseas. Clinics treat dermatitis and coughs near mills that sprint through peak season. The spreadsheet never meets those bills. You do, later elsewhere, informs the checkout page can't show. Lie 2 smiles while it lifts. We pass savings to you. Partly true, selectively framed. Yes, prices fell on the rack, but the gap didn't flow straight into your pocket. It split some to you, a lot to margins, plenty to marketing that makes the deal feel inevitable. Executives earn on unit volume, buybacks ride the spread. Efficiency gains becomes the song of the quarter. Listen to earnings calls after a discount-heavy season. You'll hear mix, leverage, optimization. You won't hear, we gave it all back. Stakes hit suppliers first. Payment terms stretch to 60 or 90 days, so factories bankroll production while paying workers weekly. Post-delivery, brands claim quality deductions on tiny defects. The factory eats it or loses the next order. Meanwhile, raw material volatility lives at the mill. Cotton spikes. The supplier absorbs the shock, the brand defers. Savings is a pressure gradient that always tilts down. Action looks like a line leader calculating rent in seam minutes. She chases quota because an efficiency bonus could cover rice. If a shipment leaves late, the brand deducts from the invoice. Management recoups by trimming bonuses. Wage theft hides inside performance. On paper, everything stays neat. On the floor, people skip dinner. Impact rolls into your habits. A $5 tea anchors expectations. If a better-made piece costs 30, it feels like an insult. That anchor drags quality down across the market because matching the floor is safer than defending the ceiling. Savings became gravity. Standards fell to meet it. Lie 3 is the velvet rope. Sales are a gift. The red tag looks like mercy, but it's theater. Retailers set a high, compare at price to make the markdown feel like a rescue. The garment was costed for the sale from day one. You're not getting a last-minute break. You're participating in choreography designed to move volume and harvest data. Stakes land on behavior. If everything's always on promo, delay becomes a sport. You wait for 30% off, then 40, then the extra code at midnight. The brand wants that game. It teaches you to accept a lower baseline and come back often. The dopamine comes from the win, not the garment. And when the piece washes out early, the disappointment gets filed under expected at the price. Action behind the curtain is inventory as performance. Overorder to flood the floor. Price for markdown so gross margin holds. Use A/B tests to learn which urgency copy converts. Move the slow movers into bundles. Bury them under new tiles. Treat early units as marketing to spark the trend, then lean into the curve. If returns spike, relabel and reroute to a different marketplace, a different promise. Impact is logistical churn. Returns cost more to recondition than the garment's worth, so pallets flow to liquidators and export bales. Thrift stores skim the good, the rest becomes someone else's storm-clogged drain. The store reports record traffic. You feel like you hacked the system. The river never entered the chat. A micro scene makes it plain. A cashier rings up a tea at 5 during a today-only flash. A teen beams like they've outsmarted retail. In the back, a box cutter opens more of the same teas because abundance is required to keep the rush alive. The young shopper leaves feeling clever. The line leader counts stitches. The dye house opens a valve. So what did the $5 tea really cost? Start at a field in a water-stressed basin. Add pesticides that linger in soil and bodies. Spin in a mill where dust rides the air. Dye with recipes that only work when time and treatment hold. Cut and sew under quotas that swap hours for pieces. Wrap in plastic. Ship across oceans. Truck to a warehouse. Ping a phone. Each step shaves cents by shifting risk and pushing consequences down the line. Follow one impulse buy from cart to burial. It arrives thin, twists after a wash, and returns for free. The system logs your size, your linger time, and your color bias. Your box might restock, but odds say it's too cheap to process. It's auctioned by weight, baled by type, and shipped to a market where sellers take loans to gamble on your brand's leftovers. The sellable pieces find bodies. The rest finds rain. The price wasn't a miracle. It was a map of who pays. Lies 4 to 6. Quality theater. If price is the trick, product is the stagecraft. Lie 4 hides in the tag, premium fabric. It feels soft in your hand, drapes well in the mirror, and the hang tag whispers modal, silky, buttery. Softness, though, isn't durability. Mills hit that day one hand feel with short staple cotton, regenerated fibers, and heavy finishing. Enzymes to smooth, silicone to slick, brushed surfaces to fake plush. Low twist yarns make teas feel luxe and then pill after a backpack rub. Saturated dyes pop on camera and then bleed in your sink. The fabric passes the mirror test, not the life test. Here, why it matters. A mother buys 3 premium basics for school uniforms, counting on 30 washes. By October, elbows thin, collars ripple, and navy fades to a tired gray. That's not a vibe problem, it's a budget problem. Replacement becomes a subscription you never asked for. The disappointment is engineered and monetized. Action in the supply chain looks precise. Pattern teams target a hand feel. Sourcing hunts a blend that hits cost. Mills apply finishes that mask a looser structure. Factories stitch to a spec tuned for speed. It all complies with an internal threshold, a 5-wash protocol, a minimum rub count that sounds scientific and manages expectations downward. The lab proves compliance with a line the brand drew. Your life draws a different line. Impact lands in churn. You get a hit of novelty at purchase, a small letdown after wash 2, and a choice at wash 5. Return, tolerate, or replace. Returns are often too cheap to restock, so they join the liquidation stream. Replacements keep the unit count moving. Quality theater turns disappointment into demand. Lie 5 shows up in the lab coat, tested for durability. The diagrams look convincing. Abrasion wheels, stretch meters, color-fast racks. The tests happen. The trick is thresholds. Buttons pass a tensile pull but crack under real-world stress when thread counts are cut. Zippers meet spec in isolation and fail when tape is narrowed to save cents. Seams hold on a test strip and unravel in motion when stitch density drops and bar tacks disappear to shave minute. Stakes are real bodies. A warehouse picker runs 12 miles a day in performance leggings that aced a stretch test. Week 3, the crotch seam unravels because stitch length was extended to save thread and the operator skipped a second pass to meet quota. She buys another pair because the job demands it. Failure becomes a weekly tax on the lowest paid. Action is a spreadsheet of micro savings. Seam allowances shrink to improve fabric yield. Interlinings get downgraded so collars wilt earlier. Pocketing fabric is trimmed to the minimum so bags blow out under a phone's weight. A garment engineered for 5 to 10 wears fits the revenue cadence and clears the lab. That's the quiet math. Durability shaved just below the point where you'll complain loudly and just above the point where you'll come back quietly. Impact ripples past your closet. Flimsy garments shed microfibers faster, sending plastic threads into pumps and pipes that treatment plants don't catch well. Returns multiply, creating logistics with an emissions footprint of their own. The brand's quality claim remains technically true. The lived reality is a drawer that feels disposable. Lie 6 sits in the fitting room, true to size. The promise suggests standardization. Production reality is variance. Patterns are graded to maximize yield on the marker, the nested outlines that decide how many pieces fit per roll. Shift hip ease by a few millimeters and you squeeze another body front from a bolt. The result is a medium that fits like last year's small and a large that swings generous in one batch, stingy in the next. Across subcontractors, blocks drift because software, tables, and tolerances differ. True to size becomes whatever the week's fabric efficiency allowed. Stakes land on confidence and cost. A shopper orders 3 sizes of the same skirt and keeps none. She blames her body for not fitting a system tuned for yield, not fit. Free returns feel like kindness and function like data mining, feeding the algorithm while normalizing roulette. Her sense of self drops a notch. Her buy rate stays steady. Action in cutting rooms is relentless. Pattern makers get told to respect the block and improve yield. Darts move to save sewing time. Pocket shapes simplify. Vanity sizing lifts the ego a moment. Labels drift upward so you feel smaller in the mirror, but internal tolerances shrink to pump more pieces per roll. In parallel, subcontractors grade the same style differently to hit local fabric widths. Quality control catches disasters. It waves through with intolerance. Impact multiplies quickly. Fit chaos drives multi-size orders, inflating front-end volume and back-end returns. Low-grade construction means those extras fail sooner. The return pipeline overflows with goods too cheap to repair, too inconsistent to restock. And every disappointment is smoothed with language, premium, tested, true to size, that keeps you inside the story. A 20-second micro-story makes it concrete. A designer approves a blouse sample with French seams, crisp collar, anchored buttons. Production gets simplified at a satellite factory. Overlock seams, a thinner fused interlining, two-hole buttons with fewer stitches. The photo online shows the sample. The box at your door holds the optimized version. On wear 3, the collar curls. You assume you washed it wrong. Quality theater doesn't just sell the garment, it sells the next one. It turns shortcuts into charm, failures into expected at this price, and variance into your problem. The stage looks premium. The script is built to exit early. Lies 7 to 9. The greenwashing playbook. To soothe flimsy clothes and fast returns, they handed out halos. Lie 7 begins on a splash page. Conscious, join the loop, planet-friendly. A model in moss green stands by a waterfall. The copy promises a gentler future. The stakes are your values, you want to do less harm. The action is curation. A tiny capsule, often a fraction of a percent of overall output, gets 100% of the spotlight. Maybe it uses certified cotton, maybe recycled trim. The rest of the catalog keeps sprinting. The campaign implies a pivot. The production schedule proves momentum. Here, what that looks like behind the page. A merchandising team carves out a 50,000 unit responsible capsule while approving a 5 million unit mainline for the same quarter. The capsule gets audits, traceable buttons, a press release, and an influencer tour of a flagship factory. Unknown to them across town, subcontractors work late to finish core SKUs that will hit the same launch window. The creator's footage is sincere. The floor they saw was clean. Scale just didn't make the cut. Impact is psychological first, material second. The halo spreads. A viewer buys one conscious tee and 3 non-capsule pieces because they're right there on the page. Totals in the sustainability report climb. Tons of better cotton, trees planted, workers reached by training. What's missing are intensities. Liters per kilogram, kilograms of coatweave per garment, verified wages versus local living benchmarks. Without per item math and volume caps, the color of the hang tag doesn't matter. You can't offset scale with adjectives. Lie 8 turns recycled into a magic word. The stakes are hope. You want your purchase to be part of a fix. The tag says recycled, and technically it often is. A percentage of polyester from bottles spun into yarn. The action hides the loop. Bottle-to-fiber pulls material out of bottle-to-bottle systems that actually work at scale. The garment blend, say 15% recycled polyester, 85% virgin, a touch of elastane, looks good on a label and bad at end of life. Fiber-to-fiber recycling for blended textiles is still limited, expensive, and rare. You bought recycled, not circular. A micro-story sits in a return bin. A shopper drops a sack of old tees into a close-the-loop box and gets a coupon. The bag heads to a sorter. Buttons, zippers, stains, and blends kill fiber-to-fiber for most items. Some become wiping rags, some downcycle into insulation. Many get baled and exported to markets already flooded. The coupon worked. The loop widened into someone else's backyard. Impact shows up in landscapes that became evidence. In Chile's Atacama Desert, dunes of unsold and second-hand imports lie exposed, leaching dyes and microfibers into wind and sand. In Ghana's Accra, traders at Cantamanto Market take loans to buy bales. A third is sellable, a chunk mendable, a large remainder unsellable. That remainder slumps into drains, fuels open burns, or smolders in dumps after rain. If recycling were scaling, those piles would shrink. They're growing. Line 9 wraps itself in math, carbon-neutral shipping. The stakes are global. The claim feels like relief. The action is offsets. Pay for tree planting, forest projects, or methane capture somewhere else to balance a plane, a truck, a warehouse. Offsets can fund good work, but when they lead the sentence, they excuse the hard part, cutting actual emissions from operations and logistics. Regulators in Europe and courts in the US have started pushing back on neutrality claims built on paper credits while emissions rise. Neutral on checkout isn't neutral in the air. Walk through a warehouse. Orders spike. Next day becomes baseline. Partial boxes fly because the algorithm prefers speed over consolidation. Each split shipment doubles packaging and miles. The offset lands later as a graphic of trees. The sorter still pulls plastic film from the stream. The truck still idles at the dock. The fuel burn still happens. Offsets don't fix the cadence that caused it. Certification gets drafted into this theater. Badges stack at the footer. Farm-level standards, organic content claims, management systems at a mill. Some are meaningful in scope. Others certify a narrow slice that looks broad at a glance. The test is transparency with teeth. Can you see Tier 2, 3, and 4 suppliers? Do they publish restricted substance lists, effluent tests, basin-level water reporting, wage benchmarks by role and region? Is there a plan to cut absolute emissions with dates and budgets, not just to buy offsets? Without that, the badge is wardrobe. There's a 20-second human beat that lingers. A buyer greenlights a responsible capsule in the morning, linen blends, recycled hang tags, earthy palette, and signs off on 3,000 more units of a trend dress in the afternoon because dashboards spike. She's proud. She's also on deadline. The press release will feature the capsule. The warehouse will feel the palette. So how do you spot the playbook? Watch for big promises without dates, totals without intensities, recycled without end-of-life plans, neutrality built on offsets before cuts, and certifications used as shields instead of windows. Then ask for receipts, per item footprints that fall year over year, volume caps that bite, disclosed supplier tiers beyond cut and sew, wastewater tests you can read without a chaperone, wage verification tied to local living benchmark. If the answers don't include numbers and consequences, the green is a filter, not a foundation. Lies 10 to 12. Water, chemicals, and the dye job. To follow the sheen on a new shirt, we need to follow the water. Lie 10 starts with soothing phrases. Water like cotton, low-water denim, responsible wash. The stakes are basic. Household taps, farm wells, and rivers that carry a city's life. Cotton thirst depends on where it grows. In arid basins, irrigation drains aquifers. Then mills step in, scouring, bleaching, dyeing, rinsing, softening. Each step demands water. Low water can be true for one stage while the total stays heavy. The label shrinks a slice. The basin still pays. Action on a Tuesday in a denim hub. A mill primes a run, scour to strip waxes, bleach to brighten, dip after dip to build indigo, rinse to set, enzyme wash for softness, then finishing so it feels good on day one. On the brand site, a badge touts an eco-washer that saves liters per pair. Inside the plant, that machine helps, but pre- and post-bath still fill tanks. When orders surge, treatment lines struggle. If membranes foul or an evaporator lags, operators make a choice between delay and discharge. A valve turns. Effluent slips into a canal carrying salts, surfactants, alkalis, and residual dyes. Impact hits neighbors first.